Shocking hygiene habits in the Wild West. It's not just the lawlessness, the outlaws, the cowboys, and the lawmen that frontier people feared back then. They also feared bathing, as many people walked around filthy and smelly. Just kidding. The difficulty of finding clean water made the Wild West era a pretty nasty time to live in. Also, at the end of this video, you'll discover the most disgusting hygiene habit that didn't end up well, and even cost many deaths. Then without further delays, let's get started. Unsanitary bathrooms. Well, it's not unheard of in the Wild West that people had no qualms about relieving themselves in the woods. That's why households would just dig a hole and build an outhouse as their bathroom. It was often built close to their homes to make things for convenience. However, at that time, the drainage system was not yet popular. So they would just wait for the hole to be filled up, then just dig another hole. And yes, back then, if you went outside and inhaled, you'll get a horrible pungent smell instead of fresh air. Bugs everywhere. Also, people didn't have screens in their windows, which meant that bugs could just go in as they wished from house to house. And with the poor waste management, mosquitoes, which tend to be attracted to human waste, thrive and would always be present to bother everyone. But that's not the worst. Just imagine the beds back then, which were made from straws. Eventually, these beds could get infested with lice, and people back then had to deal with bugs just being everywhere. Clean water, please. In the Old West, you'll be very lucky if your house is near an upstream or any source of running water. But if for you it's a blessing, then this can be a bane to everyone else. Because the way the outhouses were built also meant that the chances of water contamination was very high. This made the search for clean water more difficult, but people had to live on. So to deal with it, frontier families would conserve water by not washing dishes and clothes, and even reach the extent of only taking a bath once a week. Even the entire family had to share the same bath water, so literally, taking a bath back then was a luxury. Dental trouble. In the era when toothbrushes, toothpaste, and dental floss were not developed yet, it's rare to find people without a cavity. In those days, dentistry was still a new practice. And if people got a rotted tooth, they would just visit the barber or a blacksmith to get it removed. In other words, living back then with a full set of teeth would easily make you a celebrity. Saloons and tuberculosis. It's undoubtedly that saloons had been a huge part of the lore of the Wild West, and you can easily envision a scene of cowboys, miners, or just everyone hanging around. The mahogany bar had rails on the bottom for the patrons to lean on. But also, there were the spittoons, where everyone was supposed to spit into. It's just that they didn't, and instead spits on the floor. With the dust everywhere, the people who would rent the saloon's floor to sleep would never notice the dust-covered spits. Soon, these people would get pneumonia, tuberculosis, and eventually death. Finally, they noticed it later, and proceeded to ban this disgusting hygiene practice. We've discovered the shocking hygiene habits in the Wild West, so click this and discover the shocking dark history of the Texas Rangers.